Have you ever noticed something strange about the way we look at success? When we see someone who has achieved something remarkable, we usually only see the finished version. We see the author holding a best-selling book, the athlete standing on a podium, the entrepreneur running a successful company. And because that's the part we see, it's easy to believe that success happened through some extraordinary moment. One big breakthrough, one lucky opportunity, one giant leap. But that's almost never how it happens. In reality, the most important part of every success story is usually the part nobody talks about, the beginning, the moment when nothing is certain, the moment when there are no results, no applause, and no guarantees. Just a decision to start. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, I want to talk about one of the most important ideas I've ever come across. An idea that completely changes the way we think about goals, progress, and success. Because many of us aren't stopped by a lack of ability. We're stopped by the size of the journey ahead. In this video, I'm going to share 5 powerful lessons about long journeys, meaningful goals, and why the smallest actions often end up changing our entire lives. Let's get into it. The first thing we need to understand is that human beings are obsessed with destinations. We love endings, we love results, we love seeing what someone has become. But we rarely pay attention to what they had to do to get there. Think about any person you admire. At some point, they were a beginner. At some point, they were confused. At some point, they doubted themselves. The difference is that they kept moving while most people were waiting. Waiting to feel ready. Waiting to feel confident. Waiting for the perfect opportunity. And that's where so many dreams quietly disappear. Because people underestimate the power of small beginnings. A dream feels exciting, but the work usually feels ordinary. Writing one page, going for one walk, making one phone call, practicing for 1 hour. None of these actions look impressive by themselves. In fact, they look almost insignificant. Yet when repeated over weeks, months, and years, they become the foundation of an entirely different life. And that's where many people get discouraged. They focus on the distance instead of the direction. Imagine standing at the base of a mountain. If all you think about is reaching the summit, the climb feels overwhelming. But climbers don't reach the top by staring at the peak. They focus on the next step, then the next, then the next. Life works the same way. Most goals become frightening when viewed as a whole, but they become manageable when broken down into today's action. What's interesting is that the journey often gives us something more valuable than the destination itself. Most people believe they are chasing a result, but they're actually undergoing a transformation. A student thinks they're pursuing knowledge. Along the way, they develop discipline. An artist thinks they're creating art. Along the way, they develop patience. Someone starts exercising to change their body. Along the way, they change their mindset. The destination may be what gets us moving, but the journey is what changes us. And change rarely happens as quickly as we'd like. Modern life has trained us to expect speed. Everything arrives instantly. Information, entertainment, communication. So when progress takes months instead of days, we assume something is wrong. But nature tells a different story. A tree grows silently. A river shapes stone gradually. Even the strongest mountains were formed over time. The most powerful forces in the world are often the most patient. And perhaps human growth works exactly the same way. Most progress is invisible while it's happening. That's why persistence matters so much. Because the people who succeed aren't always the most talented. They're often the ones who continue when the results haven't arrived yet. When the excitement fades, when motivation disappears, when nobody is watching, they simply keep taking another step, and another, and another. Which brings us to perhaps the most important idea of all. The hardest step in almost every journey is the first one. Not because it's physically difficult, but because it requires faith. Faith that progress is possible. Faith that effort will matter. Faith that the road will reveal itself as you walk. Many people spend years waiting for certainty, but certainty rarely comes before action. Clarity comes from movement, confidence comes from experience, and momentum comes from starting. Looking back on our lives, the moments that changed everything often seemed small at the time. A conversation, a decision, a promise to ourselves, a simple act of courage. Only later do we realize those moments were the beginning of something much bigger. Maybe that's the real lesson. Life isn't conquered through giant leaps. It's shaped through small actions repeated over time. And perhaps no one captured that idea more beautifully than Lao Tzu when he wrote, "The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." Because every extraordinary life, every meaningful achievement, and every remarkable destination started exactly the same way, with someone willing to take that first step. Thank you for watching. And before you go, I'd love to know, what is one step you've been postponing that you know you need to take? Let me know in the comments. And as always, thank you for spending a few minutes with me. I'll see you in the next video.